22%, about one-fifth, experience PTSD.
When something absolutely tiny happened to me.
Why do some memories, even from years ago, still have the power to instantly flood your system?
This is very important for me, from the general public. It's a little story I tell. It was 2:23 on a Friday afternoon on the 7th of August, 1999. I introduced 3 key concepts.
Welcome to KhanKlinics, your dedicated space for exploring the vital connections that shape your well-being. Here we dive into everything from achieving peak physical fitness by mastering sustainable weight management to optimizing your diet for a vibrant life. We're passionate about uncovering the power interplay between your mental and physical health, offering you insightful strategies to nurture both. Join us as we unlock the secrets to embark on your self-confidence and your inspiration by interviewing the top-rated personalities, not from only the US, but around the world. At KhanKlinics, our commitment is to bring you evidence-based information that inspires you to confidently control your health journey and live your life to the absolute fullness. I'm your host, Amir Khan. Let's get ready to unlock true potential of being a human with the most amazing people around us. So you just discussed, you talking about children, and you mentioned PTSD in childhood disorders. How would you think that that is different from adults? How are the manifestation of children different from that of adults?
No matter what age, when you have to deal with an overwhelming event, or when, if you just put it in that, if your system is bent out of shape, we lose resilience, our capacity to deal with life's energy, life's experiences. We grown-ups, it's an evolutionary pattern, have 4 defense responses. The most recent one is what we call social engagement. When defense, if you and I were having an argument, I might say, hey, wait a minute, Dr. Khan, look, shall we go out and have a coffee and discuss this? It's negotiation in safety. You have to be in safety to do that. If we can't do that, we drop down an evolutionary level and we go into the fight-flight response. I always think that fight is more complex than fight, but I don't know. So I think it's evolutionarily a bit later, but perhaps not. Fight or flight, which is a sympathetic response, highly adrenalized, and fight. You need to say so. I don't know if you and I had to duke it out, who would win, but or we could fight or shout at each other, or just one would say, okay, I'm out of here, I'm gone. That's the fight and flight, to generalize. If we can't do any of those things, the only adaptive response we have left is to go into freeze, is to shut down our metabolism, literally to shut ourselves down to the lowest expenditure of energy that we can. Heart rate can either be like a tiny bird or dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Large amounts of anesthetics are sent into the system to deaden pain of being ripped apart or death, if that should happen, going back to ancient saber-toothed tigers, but still. And we are helpless. Now, if you think a baby that is frightened, alone, hungry, cold, wet, whatever it would be, all it can do really is to cry and shake its arms and legs. But very quickly it will get tired and give up and go into a shutdown, freezes a shutdown. So if the baby, and so it seems, I mean, this is hypothetical, but so it seems, and there's enough experiential evidence to see that this is what happens, the baby can easily acquire the favored pattern or the default pattern of going into freeze when there's a difficulty to face.
Well, thank you, Jania, for explaining that to me, Miss Ma'am. Let me go on to another recent event that you may have heard in the U.S., and that was the flooding of a flood that had happened a couple of days ago, and very catastrophic. A lot of children, and that in the situation they were involved in, and post that, there's a lot of grief, a lot of um, on some fronts, there's a lot of anger. You've worked in high stress situations and disaster zones and conflict areas. What would be the most profound observations, first of all, you have observed in these adverse situations, and how can somatic experiences, for example, here help cultivate the resilience that is needed right now?
I think there are two different parts to this. Is to take the somatic experiencing training is a training that is over 3 years, and it's largely, well, it is training healthcare practitioners. The work we do on the ground was not really somatic experiencing, though it was still done with the implicit understanding of the nervous system under threat. It was a stabilization model that we would take in. You know, if you think in the tsunami in Southeast Asia, Hurricane Rita Katrina, how many people were involved? We would train the trainers. Now, train the trainers, train the people who, the healthcare providers there,
Yeah,
and
the
that they
first
could then pass
responders
it
and yeah.
onto the people too. And we'd use simple technology, which all of us can use. I am discussing, and I apologize. I was on a train, a subway in London recently, and a young man started really acting out, screaming on the telephone and getting very, very upset. And everyone was looking at him, and I just said, "Hey, guy, it's okay, it's okay." Just, and I moved my hand like this, and it was strange. It was unconscious, but he looked at me. We connected with each other. I didn't look at him like this. It was kind of instinctive, and he got really quiet. And then he said, "I really need to chill out, don't I?" I said, "Everybody needs to learn to chill out, my dear." And this is a bit what we do in high stress circumstances. You're working in the military and suddenly somebody is losing their cool. I mean, a lot of people can get killed if a soldier suddenly loses the edge. So, for me, I'll use three things, which I apply to myself. I have a very speedy nervous system. One is slow down. The next is feel your boots on the ground, Squatty. Feel your feet, the grounding process. When I slow down and feel my feet, I come to the here and now. I'm not caught up in all this that's going around. And then I invoke something in my mind, something that might make me, give me strength, calm, give me competence, whatever else it would be, right? I just bring it to mind. If you practice it, you can do it in a heartbeat. You can just drop into it. But when I'm teaching it, we take time over each of those simple modalities. And it's surprising how effective it is. It's not going to, yes, it is going to change. When we are centered and present, we can act at our highest skill level.
Thank you. That's important. Yeah, that's fantastic. That answers probably the question, because you need to. I think you've answered the question. Says we have to recompose, reanalyze, ground ourselves down, and start from the scratch, because anxieties, provocation, high stress situation, it all sort of adds up and compounds or makes the situation worse,
It's
and it's not
contagious.
going to help.
It's contagious. We can get
It's
really worried
contagious.
when our kid has fallen down and we suddenly go, oh my gosh, and we rush over and rush over. And our anxiety on the kid, of course we're going to care. But if we can just practice and calm down, just center, okay, and then you deal with it, you're not putting all your stuff onto the nervous system of your kid.
Thank you for explaining that. So it's recomposing yourself. I'm going to go on to another question that stems from that, and that is when someone is experiencing symptoms of unresolved trauma and they're living with that. they're going through that and they think that they are calm under that situation, but actually they're not. What advice would you give to that person, or a few practical tips or steps they can take to begin a bit of the process and then know that they really are on the healing pathway?
That they really are what? Sorry, could you repeat
On
that?
a healing pathway.
You know, if there are chronic symptoms, right, um, then I would suggest you do a couple of sessions with a somatic experiencing therapist. I'm not trying to sell the method. I'm just saying this would be the most direct route. I appreciate the myriad methods. Everyone has its benefits, but the somatic experiencing model is designed for exactly what you've said. Yeah. Underneath the symptoms are not the problem. It's what's driving the symptoms, and that is down in the physiology and the biology in the nervous system. So, I mean, I could, but I think it would be unfair to give, apart from those little things I gave. When I'm working with a client, I will explain to them a lot of education. I will teach them some things and get them to practice it in between sessions because it's a pattern in the nervous system. The PTSD just becomes a repetitive pattern. The same thing happens even though the cause is gone. And we need to be able to truncate that pattern and be able to introduce a healthy one.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining that. That makes sense. Let me go on to another next topic, and that's about some advice, practical tips of self-regulation techniques or first aid tools from the Somatic Experiences framework that people can use to calm their nervous
Okay.
system, regain a
Okay.
sense of composure, calmness, and safety.
Well, I have to say that I'm not here to teach somatic experiencing, but I would say that beyond that, the first thing, one, we need to be present to ourselves. Just to be able to come to presence, knowing that that can be hard when you've got trauma and the symptoms distracting you, or anxious about the future, worried about the past, whatever. Just whatever it is that calms you. And then to start to repertorize those things that bring you goodness in life, that the the positive elements that you have in life. It's what I say is, what do you have in your life that reliably makes you feel the way you'd always want to feel? I'm careful about the words. If I say safe, somebody will say, I've never felt safe in my life, if I, whatever it would be. So I'm inclined to keep it quite open and then help people to start there and say, there's nothing, but everybody that's alive has something in support of that kind. It can be it can be a person, it can be a place, it can be an animal, it can be an activity, it can be anything. But and when that thing is brought to mind, to feel the effect of it in your body, normally that will create a sense of expansion. I'm constantly working between the constriction, which drives the sympathetic nervous system, right? Constriction, I've got to fight, or shutting down. But when we expand, we come into the calming element of that. Yeah, the rest and repair, which is what we need to balance out the highly driven, adrenalized part of the system. So I would recommend for every make a practice is, people have perhaps their ways, maybe the prayer, maybe the different things. But I say to somebody that's suffering from those symptoms, of which huge compassion, I've been there too, is to start to focus on the goodness in your life. Maybe your own skills, maybe you're kind, you know, be smart, maybe you got a sense of humor. It doesn't matter what. Allow yourself to what I would call embody whatever it is that makes you feel.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's very, very powerful. Very good. Many people find it hard to distinguish between what's stress um, and a deeper unresolved trauma response, for example. What would you say are some of the indicators or subtle signs that may differentiate between, is this just a regular event that they have to cope with versus a deeper sense of trauma, stress, etc.?
The word stress has been much maligned. We need stress. We need stress to, but it's stress to put my shoes on in the classical term of it. It's the amount of energy needed to accomplish a task. So we need stress. There is good stress, the stuff that helps us, succeed, love, have good relationships. There's an energy, a positive energy. I would say it's when it gets into the point when it's starting to create distressful symptoms, when it's too much, too soon, too much, too soon has happened, too much, too fast, too soon, and that I cannot come back down to a place of calm. It's too much. It's overwhelmed nervous system. Distress.
And so when it's excessive and you're not coping, that's one of the indicators. That's one of the signs that you're overthinking or repeatedly ruminating. Um, that's when you're like, this is not right.
We are designed to be able to handle even high levels of stress for a certain period of time. For example, Olympic athletes train themselves to endure stresses that no way I could, right? But they train themselves. But by and large, it's when our norms are, when the experience is so past our norms and it stays there. It's a really time limited. You know that little tiny grannies can lift cars off their grandchildren for a moment, something superhuman, but they couldn't do it for more than a very short period of time. Yeah. But if that effort is kept, that stress is kept going over time, that's when we start producing symptoms because physiologically our heart rate is too elevated, our blood pressure has gone up, our breathing is disturbed, our digestion has stopped. You keep it up there for very long, and you're going to start expressing symptoms.
Thank you for explaining that. That's very good. I know we're running out of time, but I've got a couple of last questions, and one or two of them is about social media. How is it being? What's your experience or advice you would give um, to those, first of all, recognizing that this is again something that is being done excessively, and how does it? And the follow up question would be, our teenagers, our kids who are being exposed to a barrage of this stuff, how would you think SE, the somatic approach, would help them, or can it help them cope better with what's been thrown at them?
That's such a large question. Because I was raised in a time without social media. I live alone, and I was aware that I was becoming addicted to it at my age. My colleagues would tease me because we're always saying the teenagers are doing this. I was doing it. I was connecting. Yeah. Bring it to the awareness. Do we have other choices of connection? Because we're designed for connection. And the connections that are happening now, I think we're all aware, I think particularly after COVID, when we were so isolated, the virtual medium has become the way to go in so many ways. Even so many training programs are put online. I'm not doing that with ours because we make a lot more money, but quite frankly, the person to person is quantifiably different. How do we do that? I'm glad to see that some countries, nothing is good or bad, like nuclear energy. There's lots of good about it. Social media has some good stuff. I choose not to use it because it leaves me time to read, which I love, to do things I love. Um, I believe Australia is starting to place, uh, whatever you call it, on children using. There's a little school in I'm a little village here, which just says as you go in, no cell phones. That's only in school time. But this is where I think the education of parents is the most important thing I could be doing. I don't know about anybody else. That we could help them to understand the effect on the nervous systems of young people, whatever the content is that they're receiving. And we know there's horrifying stuff going on there. but that to support parents in being able to draw up some healthy boundaries, right? Understanding, if they could understand a little bit about nervous systems and what happens to them, I think many parents would be encouraging their children to take up things other than just sitting and looking at a screen, as would young mothers you see pushing along the street with the child looking out and the mother going along looking at the cell phone.
Thank you for explaining that. Ms. Chenya, your final message to our audience, what would you like to pass on from your side?
Wow. You may feel that you've been dealt a rough hand. You may have had very, very difficult things to deal with and still experiencing them. But I need to say that there are so many pathways available now. I have my pathway. It may not be everybody. It may not be for everybody. But what I have found is that my most devastating events in my life, I've had the good fortune, I don't know how, because it wasn't chosen. When I've been able to turn them around, I've had to bless them. So don't despair. Don't give up. Reach out. And most of all, connect with each other.
Thank you very much. That's very, very brilliant of you to say that, passing on that message. This was not just us saying barely, but a 2023 study on somatic experiencing in breast cancer survivors showed amazing result. It helped reduce anxiety, depression, and emotional distress, while
Absolutely.
also improving their body image and coping skill mechanisms. Um, Miss Genia, thank you for bringing your deep wisdom, your heartfelt compassion, and your approach in transforming and contributing to our society. I hope you keep on doing the good work. Um, Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, I just want to thank you from my heart. It was a great privilege being with you. If I can be of any more help out there, I'm here. Bless you and thank you.
Bless you too, ma'am. Thank you. And to our listeners, if today's episode sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this message with your loved ones. This is your host, Dr. Amir Khan, signing off with gratitude on behalf of my entire team here at KhanKlinics. Until next time, be kind to yourself, yield before you react, and never underestimate the power of a pause. Take care and have a blessed week ahead.
To all of you.
Thank you so much. What a remarkable journey we've just experienced together. The path to health isn't always straight, but it's always worth the effort. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step in your wellness journey, armed with new knowledge and a fresh perspective. If today's episode left you inspired, share it with people, someone who need to hear this. Give us a thumbs up and your opinion. Keep exploring, keep evolving, and we'll see you in the next episode of KhanKlinics.